First, let's start with this case. About 2 weeks ago, I, a 17-year-old girl, traveled to Ontario with my mom and stepdad to visit my grandparents. During the visit, my grandmother thought it would be fun for me to attend a baby shower with her, and I agreed. For context, most of my mom's side of the family are Jehovah's Witnesses. While my mom, stepdad, and grandmother are aware that I am a lesbian, they usually act as though I never told them. After supper, but before the baby's gender reveal, I found myself chatting with an older man who seemed to recognize me. He made comments like, "You've grown so much," which made me assume he knew me from when I was little. At one point, he suggested that I should consider moving to Ontario and perhaps find a nice, devoted man from their community to settle down with. I politely declined and mentioned that I was happy in my current relationship with my girlfriend of 9 months, who is 16 years old. His demeanor changed noticeably, and he abruptly ended the conversation. Not long after, I was approached by several people at the event who began expressing their views, saying that homosexuality is not what Jehovah wants. This escalated until most of the attendees, about 50 people, were essentially criticizing me for being sinful for over 10 minutes. Feeling overwhelmed and upset, I left the gathering and waited in my grandmother's car. Later, my mom and grandmother expressed disappointment in me. They said I should not have brought up my relationship and made the situation about me. They felt I should have kept my personal life private, as they believed the expectant parents were upset that the event had been derailed. I never intended to disrupt the baby shower, but being a lesbian is not a secret. I am openly out to everyone in my life. My girlfriend reassured me that I was not in the wrong, but she did suggest that I could have avoided mentioning my sexuality in that moment. Edit. Thank you for all the support. To those who suggested I could have simply said I wasn't looking for anyone, I agree to some extent. I don't really know why I mentioned being a lesbian. I think I was overstimulated and speaking on autopilot. For clarity, I wasn't aware that the event was connected to the Jehovah's Witnesses. I was simply told it was a baby shower for some friends of my grandmother's. Since she has many friends outside the church, I didn't think much of it. We arrived a little after supper had started because we had to stop for gas. If there was a prayer before supper, we must have missed it. Or perhaps they allowed attendees to pray privately. Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. But this is what's going to happen if you share your sexuality with Jehovah's Witnesses. As an adult, you won't have to talk to these people anymore. You didn't do anything wrong. The people harassing you for being gay did. Also, your mom and Nan erred by failing to stick up for you. You're not in the wrong, but you need to remember that you are literally not safe with people like this. When people are fueled by religious zealotry, they cannot be reasoned with in groups. Mob mentality can turn real ugly, real fast. If I were you, I would have said nothing and walked off to talk with someone else. You don't have to associate with any of these people once you hit 18. Go to university in a liberal environment where you can find a family made of friends who value you for who you truly are. Until then, please stay safe. You're not in the wrong. You are what you are. They were the ones who decided to be put out by your sexuality and made it a big deal. They could have let it slide, but they didn't. They were also the ones who tried to push marriage on you. Religion is one of those things that should be personal. Your religion guides your actions. It doesn't give you license to control others' actions. As far as your mother and grandmother, if they want you to stay in the closet, they are not actually accepting of your sexuality. Next up, I, 25 female, and my husband, 25 male, are avid gamers and collectors. We have an entire room in our home dedicated to gaming, a shared space we both enjoy. On the end wall of this room, we have a shelf where we display our collectible gaming figures, such as Skylanders and Disney Infinity figures. Completing both of these collections is a shared hobby of ours. My sister, whom we'll call Jane, 23 female, and her son Tommy, 6 male, live 2 states away. When they visit, they stay with us. From the beginning, I've made it clear to both Jane and Tommy that the figures in the game room are not to be touched, as they are collectibles and part of an ongoing project. Despite this, Jane has consistently dismissed my request and allowed Tommy to play with the figures. The situation came to a head when Tommy accidentally broke the head off my Violet figure from The Incredibles. Her neck is particularly fragile compared to the size of her head, and it didn't withstand the handling. It was only after this incident that Jane scolded Tommy for touching the figures. I was so upset that I needed to lock myself in my bedroom to cool off. Thankfully, my husband surprised me with a replacement for my birthday the following month, which helped ease the frustration. After Jane and Tommy left following Thanksgiving, I decided to take further steps to protect my collection. I purchased a large glass display case with lockable doors, similar to a trophy case you'd see in a school. I carefully arranged the Skylanders, Disney Infinity figures, and amiibos on separate shelves inside the case. When Jane and Tommy returned to visit for the holidays, Tommy was very unhappy to see the locked display case. He begged me to open it so he could play with the figures, but I firmly reminded him of the many other games he could enjoy in the room. Jane was upset about the display case, saying I had gone too far by locking up toys and accusing me of preventing Tommy from enjoying the one thing he looks forward to during visits. She even got our mother involved, who called to say I was being unreasonable and bullying my nephew. Edit. I want to clarify that I have no intention of locking the entire game room. My nephew loves playing on our Nintendo Switch, and my husband and I often enjoy playing Mario Kart with him. He has always been respectful of the Switch and our other gaming equipment. It's only the collectible figures that have been a recurring issue. I don't want him to feel bored when he visits, so I'm trying to strike a balance. While Tommy is old enough to understand boundaries, I recognize that this behavior stems more from my sister's parenting than from him as a young child. Thank you to everyone who has shared kind and supportive messages. I truly appreciate the thoughtful feedback. Let's start judging. You tell them you do not want the toys played with because they are your collectibles. She lets her son break one. You lock them up to protect the rest. She whines and complains because you won't let her uncontrolled spawn break your things. Get a lock for your entire gaming room. Then nobody will have to see the offending case. Bottom line, it's your stuff. You can protect it. If they don't like it, they can get a hotel or stay with Mom, since she thinks her grandson should be allowed to break what he wants. You're not in the wrong. They don't have to stay with you. There are hotels. So if the fact that you lock up your collectibles after her children get into them, after being told not to do that, offends her so deeply, she and her family can stay in one. You don't owe her child the privilege of playing with your collectibles. In her 40s. My eldest sister got into Barbies in a big way. In her guest bedroom, she had a triple shelf that held well over a dozen Barbies, all in the box. She told me that she didn't have to worry about me messing with her Barbies because I didn't like dolls as a child. But when friends with children came over, she had to lock the room to keep children away from them. You're not in the wrong. Tell your sister that the fact you and your husband put them up doesn't mean she makes the decisions in your household. You made some simple requests, and she failed to uphold them. So your options are either withdraw the invitation or lock up your collectibles. You don't care that her son likes to play with them. He broke one and your husband, not her, paid for the replacement. She should be frankly ashamed at taking advantage of your hospitality while telling her child to abuse it. I mean, he knows you don't want him to play with them, but because Mummy Dearest told him it was okay, he ran straight to them. If your house is so boring, he can bring toys from home or they can stay in a hotel. Next up, I'm a 56-year-old woman and my husband is 60. We have 3 children, our oldest daughter, Kate, 30, our son, Sam, 28, and our younger daughter, Mary, 26. For privacy, we'll call them Kate, Sam, and Mary. Kate's boyfriend, James, has been part of our family gatherings for almost 3 years. Kate and James live together, and he's attended all our holiday events since they began dating. James always struck us as kind, polite, mature, and down-to-earth. His family is lovely, and he and Kate seemed very happy together. From what Kate shared, their communication was excellent. They rarely fought, and they had even been discussing marriage. About 7 months ago, Kate told me James had her ring finger measured at the jewelry store, and she was thrilled, as were we. Unfortunately, 4 months ago, I heard through a friend's daughter that James was having an online affair. Long story. We shared this information with Kate, who confronted James. From what Kate told us, James broke down crying, took full responsibility, and gave her complete details about the situation. He did not blame her for anything and is currently attending individual counseling to work through his issues. Kate has decided to work on their relationship, and they're still together. She told me James is doing everything he can to make amends and has been fully transparent with her. James even reached out to my husband and me to apologize, and he was in tears. While I cautioned Kate to be careful in case this behavior repeats, she believes in the changes he's making and feels hopeful. Over the past 2 months, they've gone on a romantic getaway and have been rebuilding trust. Kate says he's giving her undivided attention, and he understands that it will take a long time for her to fully trust him again. With Christmas Eve approaching, we're preparing for our usual family dinner. This year, it will be me, my husband, Sam and his girlfriend Mary and her husband, and hopefully Kate. However, I told Kate that James would not be invited this year. Kate was visibly upset. She told me that excluding James feels like we're not willing to give him the same second chance she's offering. She said that if she attends without him, she'll feel like a third wheel among all the couples. I understand her perspective, but the rest of the family agrees that it's too soon to include James this year. I'm conflicted. I want to support my daughter, but I also feel the need to set boundaries to protect the family dynamic. Am I the one in the wrong for not inviting James to our Christmas dinner? Let's start judging. You're in the wrong. You need to be in your daughter's corner right now. I've been through this with someone very close. Her partner cheated on her in a way that went beyond online. And while we had disdain for the broken trust and betrayal, and made it clear that we did not expect her to just forgive him, that we'd 100% back her if she divorced him, we also let her know we'd respect her wishes no matter what she chose. Ultimately, she is the one who was most hurt by this, and she gets to choose how to move forward. She chose to forgive him. It took a lot of time to build that trust back up. We obviously couldn't just forget what he'd done. Neither could she. But if she felt ready to bring him to family gatherings again, we would do our best to respect that and show her that we were in her corner no matter what, and trusted her judgment. I understand that this man hurt her, and that hurts you. But they are trying to heal. You may not agree with that right now. You may never agree with that. But I think doing this, excluding him when she wants him there, may keep the wound festering. Your daughter, the one most hurt, is trying to move forward. If she can stomach living with him after what he did to her, I think the rest of the family can stomach it for her happiness during the holiday. You're in the wrong. They are trying their very best to make this work. And it sounds like the BF is doing sufficient to make your daughter happy, and things are looking up for them. Why on earth would you want to exclude him? The only person who bestows forgiveness is your daughter, and she has done this. It's nothing to do with you. That should be the end of it. All you are doing by excluding him is ruining their Christmas, putting additional strain, stress on your daughter and her BF, and getting to feel all holier than thou. Show some faith in your daughter, as well as some Christmas spirit, please. I'm going to go with a different reason for you're in the wrong. Not inviting him alienates her. That means when she next needs support, she won't turn to you. I'm making the assumption that he's not abusive, but I'm going to use abuse as an example. When you have a child or friend who is in an abusive relationship, you may wish to put your foot down and say, either you leave that person or I can't be there for you. It could be for your own boundaries, but frequently it's to try to get the person to see they're losing others and to leave the abuser. But it doesn't work that way. Usually, that kind of action serves to further isolate the person being abused, which is what an abuser wants anyway. Basically, it removes alternative viewpoints from the person's world. So, if you want to make sure Kate has access to your alternative viewpoint of cheater, paradoxically, you have to actually keep him around. That way, she doesn't have to choose and is thus more exposed to your position on whether his behavior was or wasn't acceptable. I do agree in the end it's her decision. But I just wanted to explain to you that if your intent is to help her see he's not worth her time, excluding him will have the opposite effect. You have to include him so that she stays around and then sees other viewpoints and other possibilities. Next up, I, 29 male, and my wife, 29 female, are preparing to go on a road trip to visit my grandparents. Our 4-year-old daughter didn't have her own suitcase, so back in August, she saw a Minnie Mouse suitcase she really liked. My dad, her grandpa, offered to get it for her for the trip. He ordered it just a couple of days ago, and when it arrived, our daughter absolutely loved it. The other night, while she was on a video call with my in-laws, she wanted to show them her new suitcase. She was so excited and proud of it. Later that evening, my father-in-law texted my wife saying, "We are very sad that you didn't tell us or let the other grandpa know that we were planning to get daughter a suitcase for her trip. We won't be giving her the suitcase now, as she doesn't need two. We are sad about the outcome." This message surprised us because we didn't know my in-laws were planning to get her a suitcase. No one told us. I also didn't know that my dad had officially ordered the Minnie Mouse suitcase until just a couple of days ago. So am I the one in the wrong here? Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. Just answer him that he never communicated with you about it. Your father bought it and sent you it. She asked for this one in August. They had plenty of time to buy it and bring it to you. Could it be just an excuse to pretend they did something, but in reality they are just a shame because they didn't think about buying the suitcase? And she can have 2 suitcases if they are not too big. One for her toys and one for her clothes. If they really buy one, huge, you're not in the wrong. Your in-laws expected you to just intuitively know that they planned to get her a piece of luggage and are now guilting you for not letting them know she no longer needed it? Will they expect an itemized list of every gift she will receive for birthdays and holidays here on out so they know what not to get her? This is absurd to me. They're sulking and being idiots about it. You're not in the wrong. If they never mentioned they were getting her a suitcase, why would you have brought it up to them? They should have used some common sense and checked in with you about the gift they planned to get.